On the surface, it was paradise. A luxury yacht sailing through the bright blue waters of the Bahamas. But on July 3rd of 2025, that dream was shattered. Deep inside the engine room, 20-year-old Paige Bell was found dead. Her life cut short and her body abandoned in the shadows below deck. Was it a tragic accident or something far more sinister? As investigators closed in on a suspect, questions swirled around about what really happened that night and what secrets this vessel may have been hiding. This is the chilling case of Paige Bell and the darkness beneath paradise. Welcome to True Crime Stories. If you're new here, I'm your host, Ty Knotts, and I post new true crime documentaries every single week. So if you're interested in classic true crime without a bunch of new age poop, hit that subscribe button. It's totally free and just keeps you up to date with all my latest videos. On July 3rd of 2025, the Royal Bahamas Police Force boarded the superyacht called Far From It, docked at Harbor Island. The crew had called the police after one of the stewardesses had not shown up for her shift. But there was nowhere she could have gone. It was a yacht. It's not like she just stepped out. Her co-workers waited for her to show up and get the work started. But after hours and hours passed, the normally punctual stewardess was nowhere to be found. The Bahamian police checked every corner of the yacht. They went from room to room and they searched the deck area, but still, there was no sign of this missing woman. Where could she be? This was literally what everyone was thinking. Did an accident happen? Did she fall overboard? Was she drunk last night and stumbled into the water? All sorts of thoughts were going through everyone's minds. Meanwhile, the police entered the engine room. It was the only place on the 43-meter-long yacht that they hadn't checked yet. But they weren't expecting to find the young woman there either. But when they opened the door and stepped in, their search for the missing stewardess ended right then and there. She was in the engine room, but she couldn't explain as to why she was here while everyone was out there losing their minds. And that's because she was on the floor, lifeless, with brutal injuries to her body, including her arms and neck. The lack of clothing on her body suggested something perverse and carnal. This 20-year-old stewardess was now gone on a very expensive luxury yacht, and it was like a horror movie come to life. But that wasn't all. While the police were trying to get a grip on the scene that unfolded before their eyes, they almost didn't notice the second person in the engine room. And yes, you heard that right, the woman wasn't alone in the engine room when the police found her. There was another person with her. It was a middle-aged man, and he was found just a few feet away from the woman, also with injuries to his arms. The man looked deathly still, and at first glance, the police thought that they were dealing with a double homicide. Well, that was until they took a closer look and tried to shake the man for any signs of life. The man opened his eyes, and the police jumped back. The man was alive, but he needed medical attention if the police wanted answers. Things weren't looking good. The police rushed to take this man to the nearest clinic because, in their minds, this man could have seen the grisly murder carried out in the engine room. Or worse, he could have done this to the woman himself. But why? The police had a lot of work on their hands, so they decided first to identify this lifeless woman. When officers asked the crew members and the woman's co-workers, they found out who she was. And this was the lifeless body of 20-year-old Paige Bell. And she was just days away from reuniting with her family and celebrating her 21st birthday. But now, she was gone, and the Bahamian police, as well as everyone on board far from it, were terrified, thinking about what went down when Paige lost her life on a luxury super yacht. Paige Bell was born on July 14, 2004, in Johannesburg, South Africa. She was your regular 2000s kid who was born in the prime of the internet. She loved making videos of herself and posting them on social media, and she was defined as sweet, energetic, and always smiling. She had an infectious laugh, and she was friendly with just about everybody. I hate to say it, but she was a prime target of ending up on the wrong end of a murder investigation. It always seems like the good ones that are taken far too soon. Paige had a sister named Chelsea, and the two were super close. The family moved to the coastal city of Durban when Paige was still young, and Paige has loved the ocean ever since. She loved stargazing, taking walks on the beach, and she was a die-hard lover of red velvet cake. So much so that she wanted this specific cake for her birthday every single year. Paige was adored by everyone around her, and those who knew her remembered her as a young woman with boundless compassion. She also had a boyfriend at the time of the case, and before working as a stewardess on Far From It, Paige had worked aboard the motor yacht Sweet Emotion until December of 2024. See, Paige always wanted to work at sea, and getting a job as a luxury yacht hostess was a dream come true for her. She got to explore different places, meet new people, and spend the majority of her time at her favorite place in the entire world, the ocean. Paige was defined as the golden girl by her crew. She was like family at her previous job with everyone as well. Paige was very professional and did her job perfectly. She had dreams of rising to the managerial level in this field, and it was safe to say she was living a good life. Before her death, sometime in January of 2025, Paige started working for the Richmond super yacht Far From It, and it was a big luxury yacht measuring about 143 feet long. It has the capacity to board 12 guests in 6 luxury cabins, and a crew of 8 people is usually on board during its trips. It's basically a celebrity yacht, and people who wish to take a breather in the Bahamas would have to pay around $140,000 to $165,000 a week. That is one heck of a vacation. But despite spending all this money and being out in the middle of the ocean with no threats in sight, darkness always finds a way. The details in this case are very vague, so all we really know about what happened to Paige comes from a preliminary police report. So it was reported that the police boarded the docked yacht on Harbor Island at around 1 p.m. on July 3rd after Paige was reported missing. She hadn't shown up for her shift, and that was very unlike her. The crew also called her multiple times, but Paige wasn't answering. Now, this was a big boat, but by no means was it massive. It wasn't a mansion or a cruise ship, so not getting a hold of Paige was starting to get everyone worried. Also, Paige was normally punctual, so was she just like down in her cabin with a cold or something? The crew was going through every possible scenario in their minds. When they got no answer from Paige and a lot of time had passed, that was when the Bahamian police were called, and they began searching everywhere. Their search led them to the engine room on the lower deck, which was a very unusual place for a crew member to be. But as I said, the police had to check every nook and cranny just in case, and that was when they came across the literal crime scene. Paige was found lifeless and unresponsive on the engine room floor with grave injuries. And to everyone's surprise, the other man was found just a few feet away from Paige. He was also injured, and when the police asked around, they found out that the man was also part of that crew. He was a 39-year-old engineer named Brigido Munoz. He was from Mexico and had been aboard far from it with Paige and all the others. Everyone was left confused and in fear. They initially thought that someone had attacked both Paige and Brigido, but when the police assessed the injuries on Brigido, they quickly ruled this possibility out. And why, you ask? Well, it was concluded that the injuries on Brigido's hands were likely self-inflicted, which was super weird. This revelation was a punch to everyone's gut. Here they were assuming that the murderer was still on board, but now things were taking a turn that they never expected. Was Brigido the one who mercilessly attacked Paige and drove her to death, and then tried to end his own life? Well, things are rarely as simple as they seem, but it certainly looked like that to the police. So without wasting any time, they took Brigido to a local clinic and got him treated, because he was literally the only person who could tell them what happened. Meanwhile, Paige's body was also examined by a local doctor who was called on board, and he was the one that pronounced her deceased on arrival. Even though we don't know the full extent of her injuries, what we can conclude is that Paige went through a painful and horrific ordeal. Judging by the fact that she was partially undressed, it can be assumed that something perverse happened, but that has not been officially confirmed. But what is confirmed, and truly heartbreaking, is the fact that she was attacked pretty badly. No one needed any confirmation to know that this was a rageful attack. Someone had deep feelings of hatred and maybe resentment, and they were fueled by these volatile emotions as they charged at Paige and sadly ended her life. It is devastating to think that Paige was on the clock. She was doing her work, mind you, working her dream job, and she was probably just minding her own business. And then this happened to her. It's so hard to wrap your head around this fact. Another detail that emerged after the examination, and just by looking at Paige's body in general, was the appearance of defensive wounds. Paige tried hard to fight off her attacker. She fought with everything she had until the end. She did not let go easily. She was fighting to save herself, but sadly she couldn't. And in the end, she lost her life in the most horrific and tragic way. But what about the weapon? Well, it was found pretty quickly, and it was in the possession of none other than Brigido himself. When he was found near Paige's body, the police immediately noticed a sharp weapon mottled with red stains, and it didn't take the police very long to realize that Brigido was holding the murder weapon. But again, even though Brigido was in custody at the clinic, the only thing people wanted to know was why? Why was Paige attacked like that? And did Brigido do this to her? Well, by this point, police, and everyone else for that matter, they were tired of waiting. They wanted answers, and they wanted them now. And thankfully, Brigido was about to provide them in one way or another. Back in Durban, Paige's family literally had no idea what had happened to their daughter. They were actually busy planning a surprise birthday party for her. See, Paige was due to come back to South Africa for her 21st birthday on July 14th, so she literally had just a week left on the yacht. And then she was looking forward to being reunited with her family. Paige's family's world came crashing down when they heard the news of their daughter's passing. They were devastated, and initially they didn't even believe what they were hearing or seeing. Paige was alive and well just a couple days ago, posting on social media, keeping in touch with her family back home, and she was so excited for that next chapter of her life. But now, instead of a birthday party, her family was planning a funeral. They spoke to several news outlets saying that they were going to go to the Bahamas to hopefully get Paige's body back and give her a proper goodbye. And it's just devastating. Paige's sister Chelsea gave a statement saying that they want justice for Paige and want to see the monster who took her life rot in prison and pay for what they've done. I can't even fathom the shockwave that must have hit her family. It's bad enough when someone you love passes away, but it's so much worse when they're unexpectedly murdered, their futures stolen away from them and their loved ones. But can you even imagine the shock, the terror, and the unspeakable grief that must come along with hearing this news while you're planning that person's surprise birthday party? I just can't even imagine. Paige's family dynamic changed overnight, and in one day, everything was different, dark, depressing, and empty. The community came together for the grieving family, and they had the best support system around them. The Bell family was very thankful for the support, but they wanted law enforcement to get justice for their daughter and the way that she lost her life. Now, this whole case is as straightforward as it is weird. First of all, Paige was found in the engine room, which is literally the last place a stewardess would want to be. It's loud, it's all machines and motors, and it's not exactly where Paige would go. So the police theorized that she was lured into the room by none other than Brigitto, who was the mechanical engineer, and his work mostly revolved around the engines. Also, we don't know if an autopsy has been performed on Paige because, if you remember, she had several defensive wounds on her body. So the presence of the attacker's DNA could lead to an answer, even though it seemed clear that Brigitto is the one who most likely attacked her. If an autopsy has been done and the police have DNA results in their hands, then they've not been made public. I'm assuming since the case is being handled by the Bahamian authorities, they're keeping things pretty hush-hush considering the tourism and everything. Unfortunately, in cases like this, money speaks louder than murder. Also, the lack of cooperation from the rest of the people on board is unsettling. Even though we don't know the full details, it's been suggested that the people on board the yacht have not come forward with any fruitful information. I know I said this before, but this boat was not massive. Someone saw something. It's almost guaranteed. Paige's attack was violent, and it is clear that a struggle took place, so she probably would have been screaming for help. But it's unsettling that no one heard anything. Not even the captain heard anything out of the ordinary. It could be because the engine room was loud and it might have muffled Paige's screams, but still, someone must have heard something. They were literally standing right above the place where this grisly attack took place. So there's that, but also the injuries on Brigitto looked really suspicious to the police. The police fully believe that Brigitto was the one who attacked Paige, but why did he do something like this after the fact? Was he afraid of getting caught? Did he feel guilty after mercilessly taking Paige's life? And maybe he wanted to end it all? These are all just assumptions and guesses, but thankfully, these theories wouldn't have to last too long, because the truth was about to come out. And that's because, thankfully, someone finally worked up the nerve to come forward, and they revealed exactly what they saw in the moments leading up to Paige's demise. So who is this Brigitto guy? Well, aside from being from Mexico and a 39-year-old mechanical engineer, Brigito was also married and he had kids too. He started working on Far From It around the same time as Paige, and the two knew each other. I wouldn't say they were friends by any means, they were more just work acquaintances. And I mean, a yacht that only has 8 crew members on board, you're bound to know everyone. Well, Paige and Brigito didn't mingle very much. They were just professional and mostly busy with their work on the yacht, with Paige tending to guests on board and Brigito being down in the engine room taking care of all the mechanicals of the boat. Yacht broker and yacht management company owner Ami Ira has been in the business of luxury yachts since 1991, and she claimed that a murder like this one has never taken place on any of their boats. Paige's violent murder was definitely a first for everyone in this line of work. Now, Ami didn't personally know Paige, but she knew her boss, the captain, who brought her to South Florida to start working on Far From It. Ami divulged that Paige's previous captain was a pervert, and he tried to make inappropriate advances towards Paige multiple times. Again, we don't know the full details, but do you really need to know them? I feel confident that this type of behavior, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. Perverts are everywhere. And when you're out at sea with literally nowhere to run, I can only imagine their actions become much worse because they all know good and well there's no one to save you. They can do whatever they want and for the most part get away with it because you're often several hours, if not days away from shore. Even though the ship management didn't condone harassment and had a strong and strict policy and orders against these offenses, Ami revealed that Paige had once complained about Brigito acting inappropriately towards her. But what did the management do? They left Brigito with a warning. A mere warning. Again, we don't know what the complaint was about or when this incident occurred, but the fact that young Paige had been harassed in some way by this creepy middle-aged dude and he was left with a warning, it's just bizarre and kind of nonsensical. I don't even know why Brigito was allowed to work with Paige or be in close proximity with her in the middle of the ocean if this incident had previously taken place. This is proof that the management truly didn't care. But this has led many people to believe that the attack on Paige was most likely premeditated, and Brigito may have been offended by Paige reporting him, so he likely vowed to get back at her one final time. Now, this is just an assumption since no official motive has been disclosed by the police or Brigito himself, but it's not too far-fetched to think that Brigito developed some sort of obsession with Paige, and when she tried to reject him, instead of backing off and taking the rejection like a normal person, he resorted to harassing Paige and ultimately targeting her for becoming difficult. It's highly plausible that Paige, being naturally friendly and mingling, befriended Brigito too because she was just starting work at a new yacht and there were 8 people there, so maybe she just wanted to get things off on the right foot. It's pretty understandable. But Brigito mistook Paige's kindness for reciprocation of his feelings and became obsessed with her. It's a tale as old as time, but again, just conjecture. It's widely assumed, though, that Brigito wanted more than a mere professional friendship from Paige, even though he was clearly married with kids and she had a boyfriend. And when Paige rejected his advances and made a complaint against him because he was clearly making her uncomfortable, that's when Brigito flew off the handle and wanted to get back at Paige for rejecting him. I seriously don't know how this man's mind works. But anyway, the police immediately arrested Brigito for murdering Paige after his treatment at the hospital. And as far as we know, he still said nothing so far. He didn't tell the police why he murdered Paige, how he lured her into the engine room, or where exactly the murder even took place. Nothing. The police are currently investigating a motive, and it's possible that Brigitto will be tried in a Bahamian court. He was not required to enter a plea, but he has been denied bail while the investigation is underway. As of present, Brigitto's next court date is scheduled for November 20th, 2025. So until then, we don't know what'll happen. Brigitto is imprisoned in Nassau, and the police are still actively investigating the case, but the details have not been made public as of yet. So I guess we just have to wait until November 20th, which is just a couple months away, to see what happens. But from the looks of it, I think we can all pretty easily piece together what happened here. If the police have damning evidence like a DNA or a motive or even CCTV footage, there's no escape for Brigitto, now that his previous attempt at taking his own life has failed anyway. Paige's family was and will be present at every hearing because they say they want to see their daughter's murderer pay for his actions. I just sincerely hope that justice prevails and the grieving family gets the closure they need to move on with their lives after this devastating loss. Bringing Paige's body back to their hometown of Durban is the main priority of Paige's parents. Almost immediately after the news of their daughter's murder reached them, Paige's parents caught a flight to the Bahamas to go through this painful process and see the murderer get punished in court. But this is inarguably an expensive process, so Paige's former colleagues from Motor Yacht Sweet Emotion and friends set up a GoFundMe for Paige's family to help them with these expenses and to support them too, which is just heartwarming. Their main goal was to reach just $16,000, but the fund exceeded $60,000 by the time it ended. It was on that very GoFundMe page, which was made sometime just before Paige's birthday. Her colleagues and friends, who were like her second family, requested everyone to honor Paige by eating a slice of red velvet cake on her birthday, July 14th, and sharing a picture in remembrance. This is such a heartwarming way of remembering a vibrant, compassionate, and ambitious young woman like Paige. This case is honestly so confusing and devastating. To think that a woman doesn't even have the freedom to say no to someone is scary. On top of that, this case happened months ago. This wasn't years ago. But still, it feels like we're stuck in the olden times when women can't even speak up for themselves and protect themselves from monsters like Brigitto, whose obsession likely reached new heights and completely annihilated a family's happiness. I really hope that Paige's case gets solved quickly and that the verdict is in favor of her loved ones. While this case is technically unsolved, it doesn't really take a rocket scientist to understand what happened here. Crimes like this, they have no place in modern society. Anyone, regardless of gender, should be able to turn other people down without feeling like their lives may be in danger. We all like to think that this type of behavior, it's isolated to cases like this, but it's really not. All any of us want is to be treated as though we're equal. And while the modern world has made great strides towards that, we still have such an incredibly long way to go, clearly. No one wants to be victimized because of their gender, because of what they look like, or who they choose to be. All of us just want to be treated as people. But in many cases, I guess that's just too much to ask. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of True Crime Stories. If you're new here and you liked the video, be sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing. It's completely free and just lets you know when I post new videos. If you love the channel and want to help support us, consider hitting that join button below the video and become a member of the channel. It allows you to see new videos sometimes days or weeks before they're posted to the public, and it's a great way to help the channel out financially, and I appreciate all of you guys that have decided to do that. And speaking of which, I wanted to give a shout out to some new channel members this week, including Jessica Darling, Kevin Hilferty, TK, Alexis Seidel, Kim Qualio, and Karen Moore. And don't forget, you can grab a True Crime Stories t-shirt by clicking the link below the video, including our most recent It's Never a Mannequin tee. But with that, my name is Ty Knotts. I thank you guys again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.